Hello and welcome back to the NerdRabbit Podcast. I am glad to have Jeremiah Cantu here. I've known Jeremiah for about a year now. We've been working with Innovative on a number of different initiatives. He works with Innovative Solutions, one of AWS's premier partners. Welcome, Jeremiah.
Hey, Chris. Yeah, man, it's great to be here.
Awesome. Well, Jeremiah is an expert in a lot of things AWS, frankly, but today we're going to be talking about a particular program that's really accessible for a lot of AWS customers. It's something that a lot of people can benefit from in the sense that it's pretty holistic in the approach that it takes to ensuring that you're running good workloads in AWS. So today we are going to discuss the Well-Architected Framework review. So Jeremiah has actually run this program over at Innovative for quite some time and has a lot of familiarity with what this program is all about, why people would come to this program and use it to their benefit. So first, I think we'll start with just the most basic elements of this. Can you walk our viewers through what the well-architected framework is?
So the well-architected framework should really be thought of as a set of 6 pillars that provide guidance and on how to build and operate and optimize a workload on AWS specifically, right? And it's like I said, it is a framework. I think the review process really should be thought of as almost like a thought exercise for a guided thought exercise for your team, for your systems administrators, your application developers, even your finance team to come together and look at what is either has been built, has been moved, or maybe should be improved on something that's already on AWS. And how does it align to these 6 pillars? And where the review comes in and the review partner ecosystem comes in is that when you partner with someone like Innovative Solutions, we provide a technical expert to guide you on that thought exercise and as you review your architecture and what you built along those 6 pillars.
Yeah. And I mean, it's really important, especially with AWS. It's a huge ecosystem and it changes aggressively fast because of all the development they're able to do with such massive size over there. And that means there's always constant change to how you can be optimized to ensure that your software is as reliable as it can be, as secure as it can be, that you're not spending an arm and a leg when you don't need to. So having kind of that thought exercise, the ability to look at this is what we're doing and this is how AWS recommends people do things, where are we aligning and where aren't we? So that's the framework. Now, as for, I guess, the right kind of profile for someone looking to do the framework, let's get a little more into that. So can you describe someone who might be in a good position to go do a well-architected framework review?
Sure. I think anyone who potentially maybe you've come on board to a new company and you've inherited an existing AWS workload, right? You've inherited, hey, this is something that your predecessor or a team previous built. How's it running, right? That would be a good fit. You've recently decided, hey, this was a full-on like POC and proof of concept we built on AWS. So maybe it's running in a different cloud, maybe it's running in a different architecture on premises, and you have this. You decide, you know what? Let's start moving forward. But let's look and think about it. What are we doing this right? Or maybe it's something where you've just built a brand new, net new on AWS, and you would just like maybe just like another set of eyes, right? Almost like a sanity check. Hey, how does this look? How does this perform? Where can we find some improvements? And another great fit is if you say to yourself, well, we've had this same workload for a while. Now, I would always recommend at least once a year. This is a great exercise to go through with your team. The AWS landscape changes constantly, right? There's always new, improved products, new improved processes, tools, AWS native tooling that comes out. That's where we, as the AWS, as the partner, as the well-architected, proficient team, bring our expertise and say, hey, remember when we went through this exercise a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, 24 months ago, even 6 months ago? Things have changed a lot since then. Let's look and see how do we measure up against the pillars, right? And where can we potentially find some improvements?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of gave a lot of different scenarios there, and I think that's an important thing to note in the sense that whether you're really mature and you have something that's been running for a while, and maybe you've even done these types of sanity checks in the past, it's not about that you don't still have a good piece of software running. It's that AWS has given you more ways to make it better. And it's good to constantly put yourself up against the ruler and make sure you're measuring up. So yeah, these well-architected framework reviews, there's a lot of different workloads that are going to be compatible with someone who could benefit from it. Now, I think another important thing to note, because there's a lot of different software architecture out there, and it's not always completely native in AWS, and there's a lot of reasons why that might be. Can you talk more about like kind of what this does cover and what it doesn't? Because I do think that's a really important distinction.
Yeah. And we do get that question a lot. And folks will say, well, can you review anything that's not AWS? So, no, that's not really, no, it's not possible, right? The well-architected framework review is specific to measuring how an existing workload is currently running on AWS, fully on AWS. Now, we fully understand that there are pieces of workloads, pieces of architecture that, there's other moving parts in there, right? But we're really focused on how do we optimize Amazon's web services, products, and tools to really benefit from the cloud, right? The other thing is they may say, well, can we go through and modernize our application with this review? That's not really the intent of the well-architected review lens or the framework review lens. Now, there are other products that can help you do that. But this is like I tell people all the time, this isn't a one-click, we fix it thing. This is really something for all of us to collaborate, our solutions architect and your team, to see and think, how have we built this? Where can we maybe find some improvements? Why do we build it like that? And, ultimately, we might even be able to say, how can we run this more cost optimally, right? And there's a lot of things like that. So.
Yeah, and a lot of these, like you said, it's a thought experiment. A lot of these aren't necessarily difficult to implement, but it's understanding why this is recommended and what you gain from implementing this. Like a pretty straightforward one that, in a mature workload, you might not see this as something that gets dinged, but in a pretty new, fresh workload, you might not have enabled this immediately. But putting MFA on your root user, it's a really straightforward security measure that AWS recommends for every single account, having MFA recommended on your root user. Again, if you've been at this for a while, that might be in place by now. You might have already done a well-architected review, and once that's set up, you don't have to keep doing it. But having that thought experiment, especially early in the process, can really set you up for success, prevent you from a security vulnerability when you're just getting going. There's a lot that can happen, and again, like you said, it's sanity check. It's a thought experiment. It's something for you to think, AWS has a lot out there, and I have these goals as a business that need to happen. How am I making sure that all the tools we use from AWS are all sitting in as much harmony as can be?
Yeah, that's a great point. And another really good example I think of is when we start going through the review, one of the security pillar, just as an example, we'll typically look at, well, hey, let's look at all our IAM users. And sometimes you pull up that list and it'll be pretty long. And it'll say last login 1,200 days ago, something crazy like that. And they'll still have an active key, an active access key, and that hasn't been rotated since they created the account. And they don't have, and that's where, when we're going through the review with the team, we say, hey, look, here's all your IAM users. And a lot of them are like, wait a second, that person hasn't worked here in 2 years. That person shouldn't be logging into the console at all. Those keys need to be rotated, things like that. We find that, security is a huge focus for everyone these days. And those are typically great, those kind of sanity checks where you kind of have this aha moment. Oh yeah, there is area for improvement, because you don't look at, honestly, who looks at their IAM user list every day, right? We would love to say, yeah, we manage
or
this
when you go
optimally.
In, why are you there? Maybe just because you have a new person got hired and you're just giving them access. You're not going and auditing it and making sure that this is sound and secure. And does this jive with our entire current payroll? Like, you might just be giving a new user access. You're not thinking about who all currently works on what. This is a chance to do that, to take that deep breath, look at what you've been doing and what you can do moving forward. It's one of those things that's really fundamental. It's why AWS has a huge funding program around this that premier partners like Innovative Solutions work with to make sure that this is really accessible for a lot of customers. Because, as it goes, AWS knows that the more customers doing this, the more benefit it is for AWS's reputation in the space. They know they have great technology. They know the way it works together is, frankly, pretty unparalleled in their industry. But if you aren't driving the car right, it's not going to go in a straight line. So that's one of those things where we're going to help you learn how to drive this AWS car. So
yeah, that's a great example.
For everyone who's watching, we do a lot of these. So if you have any questions about, are you a good candidate for a well-architected review? Are you in a good place to get with that? Reach out to us here at NerdRabbit. Reach out to Jeremiah over at Innovative Solutions, and we'd be glad to answer any questions you have. This is something we've done for a while, and we think it's a really foundational piece of this AWS space. Again, always a pleasure chatting with you, and thanks so much for coming on with us today.
Yeah, likewise, Chris. It's always great to partner with you guys and enjoy talking about this stuff.
Awesome. Well, look forward to chatting again soon about some more wafer stuff. And until then, we'll see you guys on the next NerdRabbit podcast.